Hey, thanks so much for joining us on Widowed Too Soon. I am your host, Mark Massaro, along with my co-host and friend, Michelle Bader. And today we are going to be talking about finding joy in grief. That is what our topic of discussion will be today. But first, I just wanted to say for anybody who's made it this far, we appreciate you putting up with the sound quality. We've been working on that and trying to figure it out as we're trying to record on two platforms at once. And so we've had some technical difficulties that we may have figured out. Hopefully we do. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Okay, so just wanted to see what it means to you and how, like, what kind of strategies do you use if you're feeling grief and you want to try to find some joy?
Yeah, so I want to back it up to the new widows and what it was like, and widowers, what it was like in the very, very beginning, because that's kind of where this starts. Like, you don't have to feel bad about feeling joy. I know in those first few months, it can seem very overwhelming and it's hard to find joy. In fact, I was thinking back when we were thinking of this topic and trying to remember the first time that I really felt joy and what it felt like, because sometimes it almost feels bad that, like, oh my gosh, like my spouse died. How can I feel joy again? It's like, how can I have these two feelings at the same time? And my story is a little bit funny about the first time I really remember, or somebody noticing that I had joy. So it was exactly 1 month since my husband passed away. I took my kids on a road trip about 5 hours east, and with where a bunch of my relatives live. They live out in the country on the farm, and I had the chance to milk a cow. Sounds silly, doesn't sound like a bunch of joy. But I grew up in the country. I've milked a cow before. It wasn't my first rodeo. So it had just been a while. And so my daughter Haley and I said, yeah, we'll milk the cow. They actually needed it done. It's like a chore. So shout out to Jesse if you're listening, my cousin, who they do it every day. So I went out there, and there's this picture of me that I posted where I'm milking the cow, and I just am like, I'm laughing because it was just like funny. And my aunt that I was staying with, who's also a widow, she almost started crying when she said, that picture that you posted showed me that your joy is coming back, and I can see it in your face. And it's just such an amazing thing to see that, because you do feel like you could be stuck in that forever. And so it wasn't a big thing to find joy, but it was about leaving the house. I decided, it was the 1 month, I didn't want to be sitting at my house thinking about what happened 1 month ago. So I had planned a trip. So planning things has been something that helps me, to get out there and live life. I think staying in your home and not leaving, which also, by the way, you and I were both in, like, deep in COVID when our spouses died. So it did make it a little more difficult. I know we're still in it somewhat, and it's still not the same as it was before. And so you do have to make an effort to get out and go places, but basically everything was closed at that time except for visiting relatives. So that was one of the first things that I did, was took a trip and really focused on being around other people. Is huge for me. Like 3 nights after my husband passed away, I have this group of girls that we get together once a month. They all came over and we're just there. They brought us food and, just showed their love. And that, started to bring joy back, and just being around people and, like, finding things that you enjoy. So it might be hard. I had a widow share with me recently that she did everything with her husband. Shout out to Bernice if you're listening. And so finding the new things, you may have to find new things. Maybe the things that you did with your husband now make you sad. So you might have to get out there and figure out, what do I like doing? And it might be exploring new things and trying maybe things you don't love. For example, like, I love running. That's something I did before my husband passed away almost every single day. That got me in a good headspace. And so I've started to discover that I love that again. It might be being out in nature, but it really is about getting out of your 4 walls that you live in, like not staying there, because that is where it's easy. It's easy to cry on your bed, like, compared to getting out and doing things. I'm going to use a real life example that really happened today. Today, I had a grief day. I'm 11 months out. I haven't had one for a while, but they come, and we'll talk about this later, in waves. not stages. And they can just come upon you. I had a situation last night trying to buy a car for the first time without my husband. And then today was the anniversary of the day we used to consider him cancer free. And so I had a lot of grief stuff coming up today. I did lay in bed for like an hour and cry, but a couple things happened. I reached out actually to you asking for prayer. And then another friend texted me randomly, but we know nothing is random with God, and actually encouraged me in the podcast and how much it meant to her. And then we ended up talking, and she was able to pray for me and help kind of like talk me out of my funk. And then the other thing I decided to do, put my phone down and went outside in nature and took a walk and just prayed. And that really, started to bring the joy back, and then focusing on the good instead of the bad, like what is going right in my life. I have a lot more things I want to share, but I want to give you a chance to talk. What are some things, like, can you remember the first thing that brought you joy after your wife passed away, or things near that time?
Well, I remember something kind of funny in regards to, so for the first like couple weeks after she passed, I was just in a total like fog.
Yeah.
Everything was just very strange. And
yes.
I even when somebody told me something funny that I wanted to laugh at, like I felt weird, and I don't know, it just felt so uncomfortable to like laugh at things or to be happy. Like I felt like, and not because I didn't want to be happy, because I'm like a really happy person,
right?
Just generally speaking, but because I felt what other people were gonna think if they saw me happy. I'm like, I feel like I should be like more depressed. Like I feel like I should show on my face. And that was like a really weird season for me. And it finally got to the point where I was like, come challenge the love I had for her. If you have something to say, like, I don't know. When I realized that I don't want to be unhappy. And that changed a lot for me. But going back to what you were saying about with COVID, it's kind of funny because, well, it wasn't funny then, but about 2 months after COVID started, maybe a month and a half, something like that, I hadn't even noticed what was going on because my life was so entrenched with what was going on here. Like I knew of it. I knew it was going on, but it didn't affect me. I was already stuck at home. I was already, I made a Facebook post that said we were quarantined before it was cool. And because I was just stuck and I couldn't do anything. And I remember one time Lacey was in the hospital, and I just had this epiphany. I told my kids, I was like, hey, like, let's go do something. We can go do something. And I was like, let's go do, oh wait, that's closed.
It's close. Yeah.
Let's go do that. Oh wait, it's closed. I'm like, yeah, what can we do? And so it was weird. Like the quarantine feeling didn't hit me until months after COVID because I was already going through it. But just, I don't remember an exact moment. I didn't go milk any cows.
Really? Not,
And I don't go running. I don't enjoy running. It's torture. I don't.
So opposite.
My good friend Jeremy from Florida, he's a big time runner, and he's like, oh, when I come out, I'll bring my running shoes and we can run. I'm like, yeah, okay, sounds good, dude. But I mean, I would do it with him. He's, my best friend, one of them. But anyways, so I don't have a specific moment I remember, but I do have a specific moment that one I was just mentioning where I remember deciding that it was okay to feel joy, and that I wasn't going to let myself feel guilty. It doesn't mean that I felt joy every day or, it's like, but one thing I realized that brought me joy is I had this strong realization, like you told me, you said God chose you for this. Yeah. And that really like sank in for me. I was just like, wow, like, yeah, God knows everything. I mean, I knew that, but just hearing you say it to me in that way, that God chose you to be her husband so that you could walk down that road with her. And that just hit me deep. But I realized that I am a walking testimony of Jesus Christ's love. And that brought me great joy. And like more practical, like with what you're saying is, I mean, I guess maybe more practical isn't the right way to say that because, God is everything, but going outside and getting sunshine. Was just, I mean, there's medically speaking, like you get vitamin D from the sun. And like, if you just stay inside, you're destined to feel gloomy. Like, sorry, because I know you live in Washington, but that's why they say that Washington has like higher suicide rates, because they have less, you guys have less sunshine. And so there's a lot to be said about that, to just go get outside.
Yeah.
I remember right out one of the times Lacey got out of the hospital, and it was just a really intense time at home. And for some, I'm in Southern California, we don't see a whole lot of rain. Like it's pretty rare. And for whatever reason, it rained for like 3 weeks. And normally I love the rain. I love it. I'll just go stand outside in it. Like I just love the rain. And but I could not wait for it to stop raining, because I wanted to feel sunshine. I wanted to see the sun and have something that felt normal, because pouring rain and dark storm clouds where I live is just not normal. I mean, where I live in Southern California, we get 120-degree summers. So it's, the rain is pretty foreign to me, but I don't know, I heard something interesting, and I'll, give it back to you or whatever, but grief is different from other emotions. So like if you're angry, you can try to resolve that in your head by trying to be happy. If, and so on. I mean, I don't need to give you 10 examples of the opposites of certain emotions, but there is no opposite of grief. Grief is like an arrow that's been shot with no target. Like it's just kind of going in whichever direction. And that's why some days you can feel joy and other days you're crying, and both are okay. But, I just think it's good to tell people that it's okay if you feel joy. It's okay if you want to laugh. It's totally acceptable, because everybody's grief is different, and nobody's been down the same exact road that you've been down. You can get lucky and find someone that's been down, like I did with you, find someone that's been down a similar road. You were the first person I spoke to that it was like, oh yeah, I know what a PET scan is. And yeah, I know I mentioned that at another podcast, but like for me, that was so therapeutic. Instead of hearing, I can't even imagine, I was hearing, oh, I totally get it. I went through the same thing. And it was just like, oh, so, finding somebody that's been through a similar situation can also bring joy in a weird way, just to like relate to somebody, to not feel so alone. But anyways, that's just a couple things I had to say. There's actually one more thing I just remembered.
Yeah.
That brings me joy. And it's a silly little thing, but it works for me and it might work for somebody else. I like to write things down that I want to get done. And because it gives me a sense of accomplishment, and that gives me joy. And I'm a pretty organized person. So my house is generally clean. So I don't really have a lot of tasks I can do there, but I'll write anything down. I'll write anything down that I feel like I can cross off the list, whether it's going to get the mail, taking the trash cans out, going to get the car washed, like
putting on deodorant,
brushing my teeth,
brushing your teeth, like literally everything.
I'm like, dude, good job. Brush your teeth today. All right.
Way to accomplish things today.
Brush all of my teeth. That's awesome.
Just a few.
So yeah, anyways.
Those are good things. Well, I had a few more I wanted to share. I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, but I like to turn up the music in my house and dance like nobody's watching. It's like one of my most favorite things in the whole world to do. And it can bring me right out of my mood, right into a happy place.
It's fun. Anybody that knows me that's listening to this is probably dying laughing right now. They're like, yeah, no, Mark doesn't dance. I like loud music, but I
don't dance to it. Yeah, that's okay, we all, enjoy different things. Yep. So that's one thing that I do. Finding, Netflix shows that you like, that's a good one. Sure. And give yourself permission. I remember maybe 3 or 4 months after Luke passed away, watching Netflix literally all day. I also was having a tooth issue and I was sick and blah, blah, blah. And the kids were at school. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to do this. And I did it all day and didn't feel guilty. It was amazing. Also, things with my kids. I know that also brings you joy when you're with your kids.
Yes.
When we plan to like go places, or I don't know, just plan things. It was summer when Luke passed away. So it was a perfect time. And we put up our pool like 3 days after he passed away. And we did a lot of fun outdoor swimming activities. Also finding people that make you laugh. You're one of those people in my life that can say things that just crack me up, and it's
That's
so
awesome.
important. Yeah, you know, when I was at this grief retreat, I feel like God told me he's going to restore the joy of my youth. And my youth was really carefree and fun. And life got weighed down when, you know, I got married and Luke got sick. And so I feel like he's bringing me back to that. And that's by putting people in my life that make me laugh and make me smile. And I think that's really important. So seek out your funny friends and, you know, get to like, let them make you laugh. Cause I think that's really a part of healing. Like, laughter is a gift from God. Like
For
sometimes I'm
sure.
just like laughing so hard. I'm like, this is really good. You know, like this is really funny. So I think that's good. Yeah, like I said, turning up the music. I love that. And you know, also along the same lines, like reaching out for help. Like one of my friends, she's like, you're really good at doing that. And I think that's like, you know, not having like any pride, like I can't ask for help. So it might be harder for the widowers to do this, but I have like several little chats, either through Facebook or just on text with like groups of friends. Like I have like 10 people in one group. If I have a prayer request, I just send it out, you know, and I know that there's a group of people praying for me, and that we'll talk about that further in an episode about like call on your tribe, call on your people. And so a simple step you can do right now is make a list of like your closest people that support you, whether they are relatives or friends or whoever. That maybe you start with 5, like who are my 5 biggest supporters, and ask them if you can put them in a chat. I find that the
Oh,
most
that's a good
efficient
idea.
way. Yeah, I have, I think 2 or 3 chats on Facebook with different groups of friends. And that has been really helpful to be able to be like, I need prayer right now. Like,
Mhm.
and it's okay to reach out and say, I need prayer. I'm having a hard day.
For
And,
sure.
you know, I have lots of friends that do that with me as well. And I like doing that. So I wanted to share just a couple verses and then see if you had any, and a song too that has helped me during this time. So the first one, let me find that, is Nehemiah. Let me find it right here. Nehemiah 8:10, and this is the NIV version. Nehemiah said, go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. And I say that all the time. The joy of the Lord is my strength. I say it to myself all the time when I'm having a hard time or whatever, and just really, you know, pushing into that joy. And then Psalm, this is the NLT version, Psalm 30:11. This is like my favorite because of what I just told you. You have turned my mourning into joyful dancing. You have taken away my clothes of mourning and clothed me with joy. And I love that, like, love that, you know, just thinking about, you know, God just taking away the mourning. I mean, you know, back in the day when it's talking about mourning clothes, I don't, you know, people would wear them for a really long time, like the black clothes or the, I don't know biblically what it was. It says in some versions it says like sackcloths or like something like that. And so it's also saying that God replaced that. And sometimes it takes a while to get to that. And you might not feel like that every single day. But I feel like overall at 11 and a half months, I feel like it's true. Like he has replaced my mourning with dancing. And for you, it may not be like actually dancing, but you know, something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's something that I love that verse. And I was trying to think of like songs that make me happy. So basically anything like 90s, I love. Turn it up. I mean, I'm dating myself, but you know. And then I was thinking of like, what's a Christian song that I like? And all of a sudden this one came back. I think it's actually from the 90s. It's called Stomp by Kirk Franklin. And it's like, so I'm gonna put a link in the description. And it's just like a praise, like you make me want to stomp, you know, like I don't know how to explain it. That's totally not it. Don't quote me on that. But and I hadn't heard it in years and I just played it before this. And I was like, oh yeah, I like this song. And it's just a good soulful song. And like just finding something um that you like uplifting. I noticed that a lot about music. It can put you in a mood. And I noticed that when I was sad and I was listening to like sad music today, I was like, okay, this is making it worse. This is not helping. And so for me, it's like turning that into like worship music or like just something fun, that's like, fun 80s or 90s music that helps me.
Mhm.
But just finding that thing, like, so hopefully listeners, you could take some of these ideas that we've given you today and start implementing them, that you don't want to stay stuck. It's okay to feel it. What we feel, we can heal. You're going to hear me say that like every episode pretty much, because it's the biggest thing I've learned in grief counseling. And so it's okay. This is what usually happens to me. I feel it for a little bit, but we don't want to stay there. We've talked about that before too. We don't want to stay stuck in the grief. Like I could have just kept listening to music, turn out the lights, cry for 5 hours, but that's not going to do any good. And so my biggest
Yeah,
thing,
you gotta put on some hammer pants and go out for a walk.
that's right. Hammer pants. Oh, here's the music not to listen to is like Enya, or like, when you're like,
Away, sail away, sail
sail
away.
away, and you're like, ah! So,
Sorry.
no, that was perfect. You'll find this in future episodes. Mark likes to like sing everything, so you're
No,
probably
I don't.
you're probably gonna hear like little bits of songs here and there, like you say something and a song comes, or a movie quote. So
Yes, or a movie quote.
you know what? Does that give you joy? Like
Oh yeah,
singing and yeah.
I like it a lot.
Does it give you joy to make people laugh?
Yes, big time.
I feel like that's something for you.
Yes,
Is
yes.
that it's like, because it gives someone else joy, but it helps you have joy. Well, it kind of, oh, you go.
No.
Were you gonna say
Okay.
something?
I have a feeling this. What were you about to say?
I was going to say kind of along those lines is also to help yourself feel better is you pour into somebody else. Like you, and that's kind of like you make people laugh and, however you find somebody else, like take the focus off yourself. Cause usually it's like, it's okay to feel it for a little bit, but we don't want to stay stuck feeling, oh, I'm a widow, blah, 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 blah. Post crying selfies. Sorry. It's a real thing, people. Don't do it. If you have, it's okay. But anyways,
That's not my MO either.
Right. So the point is like, look for somebody, and especially if you're part of the Widow Too Soon community on Instagram or Facebook, look for another widow you could just send a message to. And widow, I mean widow or widower when I say widow. Look for someone that you could just send a message to. Hey, what can I pray for? Or, what's your story? I'd love to hear it, or anything like that. But you were going to say something.
Pretty much, I had a feeling. I was going to say something very similar to what you said, is that
this doesn't work when I do it.
Just dance. So I have found that blessing somebody brings me joy.
Yeah.
So I do cabinetry and can just generally, figure out how to build things and stuff like that. And so fixing something for somebody, or I just made a really good friend of mine, Tamara, a reptile cage.
Nice.
And it was a huge blessing for her, but it kept my mind occupied, and it felt so good to give somebody a gift that that they really enjoyed. And it brought a lot of joy to me to see how grateful she was. And it was fun for me. It was fun to put my mind to work and build something, and so finding a way to bless others can bring you joy also. If you know of somebody at your church that's hurting or something, you can bring them dinner. Just doing something nice for somebody is a huge blessing. I kind of heard something said that it might sound kind of harsh to anybody who's not a widow or widower, but I think anybody who is will understand this, is like, just because they died, you don't have to.
Well,
like you can keep going forward in your life, and you feel it. Like you said, you go through and you make sure you feel that pain. Don't ignore the pain.
Right.
It's going to come, but make sure that you just make the mental statement to yourself that I'm not going to live here. Like you're saying, like, I'll feel it, but I'm going to find joy again later.
Yeah.
And I think that's like super important. So I actually did have a couple Bible verses I picked out too. So my wife's favorite Bible verse or chapter was Romans 12. She had it completely memorized, not only in English, but in Spanish.
Wow.
She was bilingual,
Impressive.
little blonde white girl, but she was very good at speaking Spanish. Like we often had a lot of good times with that when we go to like Mexican food restaurants.
Oh
And
yeah.
they'd be like saying something about us, and then she'd just start communicating with them in Spanish. And they're
Nice.
like, "Oh no, she knows Spanish." That was
That's
kind of fun. But
awesome.
so it's Romans 12:12. Rejoice in hope, be patient, be constant in prayer. And I don't know, I just like that. Rejoice in hope. It helps
Mm,
bring me joy to think about my salvation. Like
yeah.
that's a source of joy for me, that I'm like, I remember going through the trial with Lacey, and oh my gosh, it was so hard. But I just remember saying, like, no matter what Satan throws at me, he can't touch my salvation. And it just
Mm,
gave me this inner strength, like,
mm.
that I just pulled from, where I was like, you can't touch this. I don't talk to Satan, but like, it was
Can't
just
touch
this
this.
feeling. Yeah.
I just had to
Oh
say.
my gosh.
Sorry, keep
That was
going.
awesome. Yeah. How do I recover from that?
You can't touch
Yeah.
this.
You
Keep
can't touch
going.
this. Anyways, oh my gosh. I almost went into it and started singing, but I didn't. And then the other one is Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Good.
Man, like those things bring you joy. Exercising self-control. It is easy. I mean, how many times in these widow groups do we see people posting about, let's just say, all the unholy things that they want to go and
Hmm.
do? You get this certain
Right.
feeling of freedom when all of a sudden, after decades, in a lot of cases,
Right.
you're not married anymore. And
Hmm.
some people want to just go out and randomly hook up with people or do whatever. And I mean, to each their own. I don't judge people or anything, but like, that's not going to solve what you're looking for. And it's
No, you're
probably
gonna feel
just going to
more
bring you
empty.
grief,
Yeah.
But exercising self-control, that can bring you joy,
Hmm.
So I don't know. I just keep going back to that. Like, I'm a walking testimony of Christ's love. People are watching you. If you're a believer,
Yeah.
if whether they're a believer or not, because if they are a believer, they're wondering how would God come to them if they were in your situation. But more importantly, if they're not a believer, they're
Mm.
watching you to see if you really believe what you say you've believed for a long time. And I
Yep.
took great pride, not in like a bad way, but
Right.
I took great pride in constantly telling people, like, my faith won't be shaken. My faith is too strong to let me waver, and like I just, yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
No,
going
that's
off on a
good.
tangent.
That's good stuff. This is all really, really good. I really feel like people will walk away from this with some ideas. We'd also love to hear from you, like, what are some things that bring you joy? You can get in contact with us several ways, and then I'm going to share with you something new we're doing. But you can email us at widowed too soon m, as in Mark and Michelle, at gmail.com. You can also send us an instant message on Instagram on widowed too soon _. So something new we have decided to implement. We're really excited. We love doing the
Mhm.
lives on Instagram. That we've made so many connections just doing a few of those. And we really want to hear from you and pray for you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask if you want to share your story, you can instant message or email that to us. And on our live, we will read your story and pray for you and maybe give you any advice that we have learned along the way. And we just want to build this community of people that are interacting with each other. We want you guys to get to know each other too. We don't want to do all the
Mhm.
talking. And so we want to hear from you. And so make sure that you follow us on Instagram at widowed too soon _ so you can keep up with when we're going to do the lives. They may be different times. And so if you just follow us there, you'll be able to know when we have the lives. And we'd love to have you as part of that. We are so excited about building this community. We've already met people in UK, Tanzania, all over the US. I mean, it's so exciting just getting this feedback that this is
South
something people,
Africa.
yes, this is something that people need and want, because there are things for widows a few things for widowers, but nothing for both in one community that I've ever seen. And so it's just really cool, like just thinking back how God brought us together so that we could lead this community of people that I'm just excited to see what happens. I want it to be where people are praying for each other and sharing their stories and all of the things. So it's just been really fun, to get here to our 4th episode. We're working on improving the sound and just all the little glitches and expanding the ministry as God gives us ideas. And so thank you for being here. And we hope that this episode brings you joy, that maybe you've had a few laughs through it, and that you can find joy in the everyday, and sometimes it's just even a prayer. God, bring me joy today, please. Bring me somebody. I literally prayed that today. Not the joy part, but I literally prayed, God, bring me someone to bring me encouragement today. And then I told you about my friend like randomly texting me, also Tamara, shout out to Tamara, texting me, encouraging me in the podcast out of nowhere. And, God brought me joy through that, and just taking the time to look for the joy. Maybe it's something your kids did, or maybe, I love just seeing joy and laughter. And anything else you'd like to add, Mark?
Just along the lines of what you're talking about, that I would love for people to reach out to us, send messages for prayer requests. And, if you want it to be kept private, please specify that.
Right.
But we would love to talk with all you guys in live videos. We'll let you know when we're going to do a live video, and when we're going to pray for you. And we'd love to read your stories on the air, so to speak, to reach out, because we have these cancer stories, which a lot of people have too. But some of you may have lost your spouse in a car accident, or to some other illness, or to COVID, or whatever it might be. You might be able to specifically relate to somebody else. And, I just think if our goal here is to help widows and widowers, then we need as many testimonies as we can get of how God is showing grace,
right,
through your trial and through your situation, because we're not experts, like we say, like we're just sharing our experiences and what we've learned. But some of you might have advice for us, and some of you might not feel the same way we do about stuff. And we always try to be careful and being humble and admitting that there are different perspectives and different situations and different scenarios that we don't understand. Like, it's not like losing your spouse is the same in every category.
right.
I really want to encourage people to share your stories with us, share your experiences with us, tell us what you've learned, and so that we can share that with others, because the goal here is to help the community. And so we might not be able to do that as surviving widows and widowers of cancer.
Right.
So we could use your testimonies.
Definitely.
You get a cool shout out. We might even sing some MC Hammer to you or something
on
the air.
Special song just for you. Why don't we close in prayer?
Sure.
All right, I'll dial. You hang up.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, God, I just thank you for this time to be with our widow and widower community, and this opportunity, and through technology to be able to talk to people. You've given us stories. We pray that they help others. And I pray for every single person listening to this right now, whenever they listen, that you will cover them with peace, and you will give them joy today, wherever they're at, that you'll just, something that brings joy to them will happen today, and you will make yourself real to them today with the joy that you bring to them, and that they will find more avenues to have joy, and that you will bring like people into their life that are funny to make them laugh, and just that they can feel okay about joy, because you invented joy. And I pray for everyone here that you will turn their mourning into dancing, and you will bring joy back into their lives.
Yes, Father. I agree with all that. And I also pray just for your supernatural peace to just rain and shower on everybody listening who's feeling pain, and let them feel the joy of their salvation. Let them feel how beautiful it is that we have salvation through Christ, and we're going to spend an eternity with God the Father in his presence, in his perfect paradise that he is building for us. We pray that you let them feel that joy. And I pray that you help keep us humble in what we say, at least that we come across that way, so that we don't sound like, so that everybody can relate to us. We just want to build this community. Yeah, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to people, and most above all for us, I pray that you would give us wisdom and discernment, to never say anything that could possibly hurt somebody on the air or offend somebody, because we don't want to do that. Our goal is to help people. And we pray all of these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thanks for listening. We will see you again next week.
All right.